Beautiful. Thank you, Leanne. It's wonderful having you here, and we'll dive deeper into your chapter and your story this morning as well. So we also have Rachael Ferguson here. Hi, Rachael. How are you?
Hi, everyone. How are you going? So my name's Rachael Ferguson. I'm a podiatrist and entrepreneur. And my chapter is all about taking big risks. So it's taking big but calculated risks. So I sort of talk about my story and my journey and how it hasn't been easy. Like many entrepreneurs I've met, like the struggle is real. So I just wanted to really make sure that was quite clear that for the first 7 years of running 2 businesses, I was drowning. And I think so many women need to know that, and also need to be aware before they get into business what's in store, so that they can support themselves and get a lot of things that they need. So I talk a little bit about that, and then I talk about how I turned my business around finally in 2017. And for me, I wish I'd known a lot of those things and how important and valuable they were at the beginning, because I feel like if I did, I would have been more in tune with what I wanted and where I wanted to go. And now I feel like, because I am quite aware of how important values are, and what I've found has been so interesting since we've all started talking over the last few weeks about our chapters and what we've learned, is that we've all come across the same sort of things, that when you, when you're really true to your values, and it sounds so basic to a lot of people, but when was the last time you assess your values? Because they do change all the time. You become a mom and then they change, different priorities change. Illness can affect your priorities. Like, there's so many different reasons why they change. So it's so good for us to review them, but then also make sure that we're living by them. Because what I found I was doing was that I had a lot of these really core, strong values of love and kindness and all the things that mattered to me. But I found I didn't have a lot of that around me, because I was too busy in the business to actually, make sure I was aware of what I was doing and what I was also missing out on. Because obviously I had little kids at the time, and they're still quite little, 13 and 7. But when I first started the business, my daughter was only 3. And, I feel like, just looking back over that time, had I just dedicated a little bit more time for me, and then I would have been able to give them more of me, if that made sense. So that's really what I talk about in mine, and just about how, if I can do it, anyone can. Because, like we were Leanne was just mentioning, not amounting to anything. I mean, although I didn't have that experience, but going to school, it was very much based on how book smart you were. If you were really book smart, then you're going to have these great jobs and you're going to do these amazing things. But in reality, it's not about that. No matter what age you are in your life, you can learn new skills. You can support each other. You can do more powerful things than anyone with any degree. So I just, for me, that was a real eye-opener too. And it's something that, another thing I think, I probably didn't talk about this in my chapter because there wasn't enough time, but how as parents, we have so much mum guilt. We have so much mum guilt over so many things. And for me, about getting a mentor and working through that guilt really helped me, because she explained 2 things to me. She said, you've got a son and a daughter. Your daughter, you're showing her what she can have with her life. So you're showing her every day that you can be a mum and you can have a career and you can be a loving, kind, nurturing mum. You don't have to be, you don't have to choose. And with my son, I was showing him that you can support women, which I think is also really important. You can have, you can stay home. My husband and I, we do a bit of both. Like, we help each other. He does all the washing, I do the cooking. Like, we just work together, and we're showing him that, that's true as well. Like, if you grow up and want to get married and have kids, and you support your wife for whatever she wants to do. And I think it's really important that we instill these values in kids young. So for me, then that flipped my conversation with myself, because every time I'd feel guilty, I would go, hang on a second, I'm teaching them things. And funny enough, like a couple of years ago, it was actually this year, my daughter had to do a project on an entrepreneur, and everyone was choosing like Lorna Jane and all these amazing people. And she was like, I want to do you, Mum. And so she asked her teacher, and at first he was like, oh, I don't know, this, tell me, what does your mum do? And she went through it all, and she ended up getting one of the highest marks in the class. So I was actually so proud of her, but, for wanting to do that, because it made me realize then what an impact we have on our kids for working as well. So yeah, that's me.
A beautiful story. And absolutely, our kids are learning so much from watching us and being part of our journey. Beautiful, Rachel. Thank you. So we have Karen Mcdermott here as well. Hi, Karen. How are you? Karen, I can't hear you. I'm not sure what's happened to your audio.
Now?
There you are. Yes.
I had my earphones in the wrong plug. The joy.
Okay.
So, thanks so much, Paige, for having me. And hey, ladies on the panel who we share a part in the book together, which I adore. And I second everything that Rachel had. I think that that's a wonderful thing with this book is that we feel that connection, even though we all write in different subjects, the essence is the same and our values are so important to us all. And we show that we can have it all, but we will all work very hard. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Karen Mcdermott and I am a publisher, a mum of 6 and also an author of many books. I think we're up to 30 something now. So books and stories are my passion. I live it every single day. And it all began when I wrote my first novel. I had just finished writing my first novel this time 10 years ago. And when I look at what's happened in my life after 10 years of answering that call to share my story in a fictional novel and where that book has brought me on a journey. And every single book brings every author on a journey, which is amazing. And it's quite addictive to be able to be on that journey with people. And it's an absolute honor. And that is why I chose the profession that I have. And I don't have to compromise my values because I'm able to be present mom, which is really important to me. I get to, drop my kids off at school, pick them up, because that's a thing, that's one of my core values. And it's just important to me. And as Rachel said, they get to learn from me. Yes, mom can be busy, but mom's making magic happen, she's making big things happen in the world. And it helps them to dream bigger and to see their full potential, which really excites me. But I'm sure, and my chapter is about scaling up, not about publishing, it's about scaling up.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Karen. And we're so honoured to have you as part of the project. You're our publisher. We're partnering with you as the publisher, but you're actually also one of the authors and you've written a chapter alongside all of us, which I just love so much. So we'll dive deeper into your chapter in a moment, but I'd like to now introduce Emma Heuston. Hi, Emma. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. So Emma, for people who haven't met you before, could you tell us a bit about who you are and the work that you do in your business?
Sure. So I'm Emma Heuston. I am founder and director of the Remote Expert. And the Remote Expert is a virtual law firm. I'm based in Ballina, New South Wales, near Byron Bay. And we help women with online businesses protect and grow their business. And as part of that, and I suppose my chapter in the book really lends itself to that because I've been on that journey myself, searching for flexibility since my son was born almost 9 years ago. So it's about being the architect of your own life and creating more freedom, money, and time in your life. And in a way that we aren't forced to choose between lifestyle or career satisfaction or happiness or money, that we can have all of those things if we make really conscious and purposeful choices. And that's really the foundation of my chapter, and I suppose the foundation of my last 9 years, searching for those things myself and then setting about, realizing that 9-to-5 construct just wasn't going to deliver them and that I would have to go out there and get them myself, which is really how my chapter was born.
I find it so interesting, Emma. I feel like so many women, thousands of women, have to go on this same journey that you've been on, trying to find a way that becoming a mother and motherhood then fits with their career aspirations and their life and all the things that they want to do. And it's almost as if I wish they had have told us about this in high school, that, yes, get a job, get your education, but make sure you think about what's going to happen when you have a family, because most women do have a family, but then that really impacts their career in so many ways, but no one ever mentions that. So then you're happily working away, like you go through school and university and you get your job and you're working up the ranks in your career, and then all of a sudden you have these babies to fit in with everything, and it doesn't work. The system's not good for women.
And I wish they would tell boys at school, like, you know, you can be part of that too. It's not all on the mum's shoulders. It would be such an interesting way, because I think we all go on this journey where we all go, okay, well, I'll work part-time, but then daycare's a problem. And then for myself, I had a stint working remotely, which was a lot better, but sort of building that business for someone else, building their dreams, is not really compatible with your own family dreams and purpose. It's sort of something we do need to think. It's okay to not fit into that construct. It's okay to do your own thing. And that's something I think when we're at school and university, that's not always shown to us.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's something that I've thought of a lot of times, like why is this never a thing? And then the other thing is, why is the work environment so difficult for women to fit into as well? And how can we change that? So many challenges and things we could talk about on that. But yeah, it's an interesting journey that you've been on, from working remotely to now having your own business. And yeah, I'm looking forward to diving deeper in that in our chat when we talk about your chapter shortly. But now I would love to introduce you to Heidi Johnson. Hello, Heidi. How are you? I can't hear you. She's coming to us.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Hello, Heidi.
Can you hear me?
We can. Great to see you, Heidi. For people who haven't met you before, can you tell us a bit about who you are and what it is that you do in your business?
Yeah, so my name's Heidi Johnson. I'm based in Cairns, Far North Queensland, and we have an electrical safety business. So I've built it from the ground up. I used to be a plant operator driving heavy machinery and cranes and what have you. And I've always enjoyed outdoor work and typically male-dominated roles, but that's just who I am and what I love. Yeah, I have an 18-year-old boy now who's been very patient, and also my partner, Scotty. The boys have been very patient with this journey as well, yeah. So I'm sitting in the shed here with Brodie's race car in the background, because being in a shed is where I'm most comfortable.
I love it, Heidi. Thank you. So we might dive deeper into these chapters now, and I might go back to you, Leanne. And if you could talk us through the stories that you shared in your chapter and the key messages that you wanted to get across through your writing.
So obviously my first chapter is about humble beginnings. So that is pretty much where it's all started, I suppose, at such a young age. And like I touched on before, having not been shown as a kid, I suppose everything I've sort of learned, I've taught myself. So not having that support from anyone, every time you wanted to do something, you were always either knocked down or told, obviously, you're never really going to go anywhere. So that's kind of where I've definitely got a lot of my drive from. Another thing that Rachel had touched on earlier about not having like an education. So I wasn't very good academically. I was always at the bottom of my class throughout my whole school years. And then having friends question me once we had sort of started to have children and make some friendship groups. I had started one of my businesses, and then I was questioned that how can I do that without actually having an education? So I've gone into that a little bit just to show you that, like, it's pretty much, if you want to do something, you can do it. You don't necessarily have to have a education or a uni degree to have a business. You get your drive from you wanting to do it, not like, I just don't feel that someone can teach me what I've learned from my experience. Trying to think what else. So I touch on a lot of lessons that I've learnt, some of them just being quite naive and not really having the experience under my belt in very early days. One with a scam, another one with a relationship, but then obviously it was another financial mistake that I'd made. So a lot of my story is also based on learning what it is you need to invest your money into with a business, instead of sort of just, we'll just do everything and then realise obviously that doesn't work. So a lot of my story is about learning from your mistakes and pretty much just like trying to adjust and learning from your mistakes, trying to struggle with having a family as well, and trying just to make things work, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And business is so hard, isn't it, when you're first starting out? And the only way to learn some of those lessons is to go through that and face those challenges and come up with ways to solve
Better
them.
scenarios, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've been in business for a number of years, Leanne. How long have you had your business?
So my first one I'd started 9 years ago. So that's the one that I have sort of touched a lot on in the book. So I had started it and was at that point where I wasn't interested in growing it. I pretty much just, I was the one doing everything. I didn't feel that anyone could do my job as well as I could. And that's pretty much what, in the end, destroyed the business. So that was, I just lost drive to it. I lost all drive for it. And then going to Osmum in 2018, I realised that that's not what business was all about. So pretty much just come back and said, I just need to do something different. And that's where Five Little Bears had come from. So I definitely learned from all the mistakes from my first business, and now pretty much did the complete opposite with this one. And now it's just going in a completely different direction. My life's going in a completely different direction. So I've definitely learned a lot about not like, if an opportunity comes up, take it. Like, really, what have you got to lose? And that's what I have done with my new business, but with my last one, I'm like, no, I'll just keep on doing this and pottering along. But it did suit me for having 5 kids under 6. I was pretty much not in the mindset to be able to grow to where I wanted with having the kids so close together. So now they're a little bit older and I'm able to be able to sort of go, all right, well, like, I'm not breastfeeding, or I'm not sort of having to be there every minute of the day. I'm able to work longer hours and be able to take opportunities as they come through as well.
So interesting. I think, you know, when you were talking about your first business and really it was you doing everything. And for so many entrepreneurs, really most people, when they start their business, that's the case. They have to do everything. But to be successful, to scale it, to grow it, you have to learn to do the opposite of that and let go of doing everything and trust other people to take on those roles. Has that been your experience as well, Leanne?
Yeah, definitely. I think hiring people in the fields that you need is definitely what I have learnt. So my businesses have been product-based businesses and I have physically made everything, so I haven't outsourced it. So I think that's where a lot of the pressure I realised in the beginning was, which I kind of am doing the same again now, but it's just a bit easier business to be able to go, all right, we physically make everything, but now we can actually get other people to help, where the other one, it was just a bit different, where everything seemed to be personalised for every single customer, where now we actually have a range it can grow, but it doesn't need to be personalised. So it is someone, like if I want the day off, I can just go, all right, this is what needs to be done, and it can be done. So it's definitely a lot better product business to be able to be getting stuff to help with, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So what were some of the other messages that you covered in your chapter?
I think following your dream. So if you really want to do something deep down, like there should be nothing that can stop you to do that, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't do anything, because like that's where I got my drive. I started working at quite a young age, so the age of 15, and which it was Avon, but still it's something that I still, like, I had to physically go out and sell it, and within the first 18 months I was one of the top sales in the ACT. So at 15, like, I just went, well, you know what, like, I want to be able to get to that. Like, there was awesome prizes too, but that's one of the reasons that I just went, well, I want to be able to get all that stuff. So that's where I sort of found that drive to just go, well, I want that. I really need to put like 110% into that. So I think just pretty much don't let anyone tell you what, like, you can't do that, because that is what I've had my whole life. Like, even still up until 5 years ago, I still had that. But like I said, I've definitely done a lot of different things over the years, and like I said, there's a few other sort of points in there that I've sort of touched on, which I'll leave for the book. But I think just focusing on what it is that you want for your life, what works in with your family, and like there's a lot of hard days as well as there's a lot of good days, where some days I just literally said I just want a job that I can just go to and I can just leave there and leave all the problems at home. But then you're just at that point again where, like, I don't want to do this anymore and I want to do something for myself. So it is one of them things, just weighs up what works for you and what it is that you find that you do want to do.
Amazing. And, you know, that determination that you have, when I was listening to you tell your story about at 15, deciding that you were going to do Avon, and you weren't just going to sell a few little bits here and there to go on and be so successful. That determination that you have just seems to be quite incredible.
It is, and that's what I said. I'm not competitive, but I suppose I've always liked to do the best that I can throughout my life. Like, once I started working, I was working 3 jobs when I was at school, and I pretty much just wanted to buy a house. So I bought my first house when I was 20, and then, like I said, when I've always set myself a goal, I've always definitely worked towards it. Some have been a lot longer than others, but if you don't have any goals or you don't have any dreams, you're physically just stuck in a rut. And that's where I sort of felt I was definitely when I was having my kids. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something different, and it definitely did take me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do. But I felt my first business definitely made a platform for the one for Five Little Bears. So, and then even beginning of the year, if someone said to me that you would have been publishing 2 books this year, I would have just laughed at them and said, I don't even read, let alone write a book. So just to have that different mindset of it, like, all opportunities are available for anyone if you put your mind to it.
Incredible. I love that message, Leanne, and I'm sure that people reading your chapter are just going to be so inspired by everything that you're saying. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So we'll go to Rachael now. Rachael, you did touch on your chapter a little bit when we chatted, but could you tell us again about what your chapter really is about, the kind of stories that you're sharing and the messages that you're wanting to give through your chapter?
Sure. So I guess mine is all about risk taking, but it's also about a lot of the mistakes that I made. And I think it's important to share. This is the first time I've ever really spoken, you know, about my experiences. And whilst I had to be quite careful too, which I think is important when you're dealing with other business relationships, I was very open in that, you know, for 7 years. So I started my podiatry practice. I had a 3-year-old daughter. I started my podiatry practice, and within 6 months, I started my second business. So it was a crazy time. And looking back, you know, that was where I made my first mistake, because all of a sudden my focus was fractionated between both of them. And I think it's really hard. And that's sort of what I shared in my story, that it's really hard to give your full focus and energy and passion to one business and expect, you know, and when you've got 2, to expect them to be profitable quickly. You know, I was dreaming, I really was, and trying to be a mum too, you know, so that took me 7 years to figure that out. And so whilst, one business was very like customer facing, so I got a lot of my, obviously I became a podiatrist because I feel passionate about helping people. So for me, that was where I got a lot of my, purpose from, was that physical contact with patients. And it's something I didn't want to give up. So it took me a long time to come to that realization that I had to make a choice between the two. I still have my clinic, which is great, but I don't physically work in it. I go in one morning a week for 3 hours. And that's the only contact I have with my patients, which is it was a real big decision for me to make back in 2017. And I had to really search my soul. And I remember every time I'd come up with the decision of, yes, I can do this, I would think about my patients. And it was a really, really hard thing. So for me, I had to go on that journey of, what is it you want, and that self-discovery of, look at your life. Like, you've got to this place. How did you get here? You're unhappy. You're doing everything for everyone. You don't feel like you're being a great mom. You don't feel like you're being a great wife. I'm ignoring my husband half the time. Like, it just wasn't. And not only that, myself and my business partner, our relationship had deteriorated. So this was in our business, which is Sync's Body, this business here. So we make insoles and basically a podiatry range of products that we sell in pharmacy. And so, when we started this business, we had all these great aspirations. We wanted to design ladies' shoes. We wanted to do all these things. And I think that whole journey of realizing how hard it was to even create and invent one product, let alone, do shoes and different designs. So, I talk a little bit about what that experience was like for me, like traveling to China and leaving my family. And, I remember being stuck over there when my son was 10 months old and not being able to come home and crying my eyes out, just, wanting to get home to him. I was still breastfeeding, and, all these things that happen as women, we really don't talk about it. You have to put on the front of, I'm running a business, and it's really hard. And it really clutched at, my purpose and my values. So when I sort of got to 2017, I was really unhappy, and I just didn't know how to get myself out of it. And I remember going to sleep, not being able to sleep at night, just thinking, how am I going to get myself out of this? And it wasn't until I got a business coach. So I sort of did it in stages. I knew something had to change. So I got myself a business coach, and then I also started reading. So I had no time to read before, and I've loved reading. Like, I was always a bookworm as a kid, and all of a sudden life got busy. I had no time to read. So I picked up a book, and there's one particular book that resonated with me, which was Miracle Morning by Elrod. Have any of you read that? Anyone read that book? Yeah, it's a great book. And it really just ignited something in me, because, it was basically saying, if you want to be in the elite 5%, then you need to do what 95% of people aren't doing, and that's, wake up when everyone's asleep, get started on your day before anyone's even thought about it, and have that time to yourself to get your mindset right. Because when I read his book, I realized, what's the first thing we do in the morning? We pick up this, don't we? We pick up our phone, we check our emails, and before we've even thought about what we're going to do, we're either, depending on what's in our inbox, it can really, create this emotion and feeling inside of us. So I had to get some really good discipline around that, and focus on my health, and start meditating every morning, which I'm such a big believer in. I know it's not for everyone, but I find, for me at least, it just gives me that clarity to just stop and pause and think. And obviously you're not supposed to think, so that's the idea. So pushing those thoughts away and getting your energy down, because I'm a very high energy person. I always was as a kid. I don't need a lot of sleep. I used to wake up at 5 a.m. anyway as a child, my poor parents. And then I used to run about like crazy doing everything. And what I realized when I got my business coach was, even just things like getting up and having a coffee. I was probably drinking too much coffee. I was rushing about like mad. I was staying up late at night. My sleep patterns were all affected. So once I fixed all those things and actually sat down with her and looked at what is actually important to you, and what was important to me, obviously I had these 2 businesses that weren't thriving. So I was putting the effort in, but I wasn't getting the reward. So obviously financially I had to change that cycle, but I still wasn't ready to see what needed to be done. So because I wasn't ready, I just focused on my health. And then once I focused on my health and I got better, I could all of a sudden, it was clear and easy to see what I had to do. So for me, I think that's so important. If you're feeling stuck in your life, go back to basics, go back to your mental health, go back to meditating, writing, journaling. Like, I can't believe how helpful that was for me. And I just did that same routine every day. Like, I just got my book out. I would meditate, I would get, exercise. So if I didn't go for a walk, I would get my hand weights and just do weights for 10 minutes. Like, it didn't matter, just as long as you're getting that blood flow going, getting the endorphins going, eating better, because I am so health conscious anyway. But, like everyone, what happens when you're busy and feeling crappy, you go for the carbs and the sugars and the things that aren't making you feel great. So I just really concentrated on cleaning that up. And really focusing on myself, and within 30 days or so, I really had a clear map of where I wanted to go. So my business was just one insole. We had one product and we had black packaging. It was really quite boring. So on the shelf, we were quite lost, and I really wanted to change that. But I also realized we were lost against our competitors, because our main competitor is Scholl. I'm sure you've heard of them. They've been around for many, many years, and we wanted to shake it up when we came in, but it was really hard to go against the leader. So I revamped all the packaging, and I sort of, with all my experience with my patients, I figured out what do they need for conditions that they can go buy in the pharmacy, so they don't have to come see a podiatrist, or what can they do to make their life easier. So I came up with like 4 different brands, but it was going to cost a lot of money. So fortunately for me, I went on Shark Tank back in 2015. I don't know if any of you have watched Shark Tank before, but I got a deal with Andrew Banks. And so he is still with me today as an investor in my company. But even though we had him on board, the business still struggled for 3 years. So it wasn't like it was an overnight success. I still had to work through a lot of these issues. But what was really great with him was that whilst it's quite scary going to a bank saying, I want to borrow X amount of dollars, I sort of went to him and said, this is my idea. This is what I want to do. This is how much I want to borrow. And this is when I'm going to pay you back. And he said, okay, done. So I did it. And I think I gave myself 6 months to pay him back, and I paid him back within 3. And I haven't had to borrow anymore. So we pretty much got a deal with Chemist Warehouse. And since then, our company's grown exponentially at a rate of about 200% each year, even during COVID. So we're doing good now. But I think what's so important for me is that, it could have easily gone the other way. So I'm just a big believer that as women, we need to put ourselves first, and it's not being selfish. It's actually being sensible. And yeah, I'm just a big advocate for that, for sort of explaining to people that if you're true to your values and what's important to you, and you act in that way as well. Because another reason why we feel discord, for example, if you're working in a toxic relationship, or you've got a partnership that's not great, if that's igniting like negative emotion in you, and you're someone who highly values love and kindness like me, I was struggling with that situation, because I felt like I wasn't being myself. I wasn't being authentic. And I think you need to make sure whatever matters to you, you surround yourself with that. So that was a huge turning point, and it made me change a lot of decisions and map out a different pathway for myself once I realized what was important. And then what also made me realize, because love and kindness was so important to me, the people that I love the most, my husband and kids, they weren't getting that from me. So I had to change that around. And so what I started to do was go to bed earlier at night, wake up earlier in the morning, and that seemed to get much better. And whilst I'll still have late nights here and there, I think we all have to work on deadlines sometimes, I mostly try and switch off at night, and I try and keep my weekends much clearer than what they ever were before. And I think that is also better, because when you do show up for work, you're much more focused. But it is a constant reminder, because these phones, and I know we were talking about it even on yesterday and the day before, we're all touching on this whole, we're living in this world of distraction. I mean, I can't even imagine what it'd be like for kids in high school now. Can you? I mean, with all these notifications that we get all the time, and, you're just doing one thing and then someone sends you something else, and then all of a sudden you go and respond to that, and you lose track of where you're at. So for me, also getting good with delegating things, and making time blocks, I find helps me as well. So like creative time, uninterrupted time with my executive assistant, just with her. Like if I do those things and I stick to them, I'm much more productive with my time. So I guess back to the book side of it, my big lessons were pretty much, it comes back to you, make sure you're focusing on yourself. And then when I talk about risks in business, I truly believe that if you sit back and wait for too long, you'll miss your chance. So I'm a big believer in being agile and moving fast and taking all these opportunities quickly and not sitting to think about it, because whilst you're sitting and thinking and waiting, there's someone else out there acting. So I just talk about how I review those risks for me and what that means, and how mentorship is so important. I think it's really important for people to have this community where they can talk to people. Yeah, it's really, really important for me. So I'd say that's probably the most important things. I'm trying to remember back. Can you think of anything else, please?
That's amazing. You've shared so much. But I think the thing that really struck me is that the journey you've been on, from when you started to where you are now, and really investing in your number one asset, which was yourself, has been the game changer.
100%.
When you found your business coach and you were like, I need to change things, you took that action because you recognized that things needed to change, and then investing in your health, and then going to bed early and getting up early so that you've got that fresh start on the day. All of those things are all about just investing in you. And the flow-on effects of that for your business were actually incredible. So congratulations on everything you've achieved. I know Sync's Body is your big thing now, but are you still working as a podiatrist as well?
Yeah, so I go in 3 hours a week into my clinic, and the main reason I do that is I still think it's so important, if you're developing products for people, that you have that connection with what's relevant. So I'm actually a sports podiatrist, and I do lots of alternative treatments. So I'm right into acupuncture and dry needling and shockwave therapy. And so I just love, like, I go in there for those 3 hours and I get to do all those treatments on people and talk to them and try out my latest things. So yeah, so that's the most I do, which is kind of sad, but at the same time, I think it's also, like, as anyone would know, when you're exchanging your time, it's really draining on you. So I think it's a good balance for now.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I'm glad that you're still able to keep seeing some of those clients, and yeah, it is great when you're developing the product to be getting that firsthand feedback from real life customers. It's excellent. Wow, thank you, Rachael. I think people are going to love your chapter and get so much value out of everything you've said. So many messages in there. So now I would love to go to Heidi. Hi, Heidi. And
Hello.
Heidi, tell us about your chapter and some of the key messages that you wanted to share with people in writing it.
Yes, so my chapter, I've called it Daring Differently, given that the majority of the things that I've done in my life are quite unusual for girls to do. For example, I just found this photo in the shed. That's this is my race car when we were younger. Things like that. I've had many things in my life that I've been the first at. Driving big machinery in mine sites and that kind of thing. Hoping to pave the way for other ladies to come behind me, and but not necessarily that as a goal. It was just sort of, I want to do it, and hopefully other people can see that it's doable. The main thing I wanted to get through to in my message was that having a trade is very worthwhile. There's a lot of focus nowadays on teaching, high school kids that girls can be carpenters and electricians and all that kind of thing, and that's fabulous. But I wanted to take it a little bit further with the thinking, so that once you've got your trade, there's no reason why you couldn't then become the business owner. I've done it, and it's been amazing for our family to have our own, just with freedom, with our freedom and ability to make money, where it's, as an employee, you're sort of topped at whatever your employer thinks you're worth, or that kind of thing. So being your own business owner is so rewarding. And like everybody else has said, that the resounding similarities in everybody's type of business. You know, we've all had to take risks that we never thought we'd take. You know, setting goals. Like, I've never been a very good goal setter, but I know now, after doing some training with also having a business coach, that having goals is imperative to get to where you want to go quickly. Yeah, everybody's got a similar theme, I guess, in the background of everybody's story in this book, which is fabulous. There's going to be a few similar themes there, but yeah, so having a trade, whilst yes, it is hard work, you can do that for a few years and then actually start your own business, which is fabulous.
So Heidi, tell us about the transition from, you know, from working in the trade to then becoming a business owner, because it's quite a big transition, isn't it, really?
Yes. So yeah, I used to be very hands-on at every client I would visit. Like I say, built my baby up from scratch and had a really excellent relationship with all my clients. And then at a certain point, we started getting too many to, you know, somebody had to do all the paperwork and what have you in the background. And so I've done a lot of learning around removing myself. I made that a goal, actually, to remove myself by 50%. And that meant learning how to put systems in place, like, you know, we've got different computer programs that schedule all the work, and had to train up staff to help us, you know, do all the reporting and that kind of thing. So that, because after a point, like, I didn't have any freedom. My family didn't see me, and, you know, you sort of get to a point where you've got no life. And it's just like that book, The E-Myth, where you've got a great idea and then, you've got no skills. But just sort of learning how to remove myself was huge and very rewarding. So once that's taken place now, you know, the clients were a bit upset that I didn't come to site much anymore. And but after about a year, they sort of got used to it, and they know I'm still there and they can talk to me at any time. But it's now my staff represent me and the values that I've tried to uphold the business.
And have you really are working in a very male-dominated industry. Have you had to face challenges because of that?
Not really. You're sort of limited to your own self-belief, really. Like, nowadays, we don't really have too much. There's not a great deal of sexism or, you know, there's banter on site, which is, you know, you've sort of got to, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, you have to deal with that. But there's only been one or two resounding instances in 10 years that have really made me angry. And apart from that, the attitudes of everybody is changing dramatically, which is fantastic. I guess the only thing that's not changing as quickly as we'd like is the amount of women who are joining the male-dominated trades. You know, like, other industries are doing it really well, like mining and the sciences. Like, those industries have really, like, they're well ahead of where, say, the electrical trade or, you know, hands-on trades are at with the amount of women in the workforce, which, you know, we're hoping to improve.
And why do you think that is? Do you think that that girls aren't going into those trades when they leave school, or do you think they're going into the industry and then leaving the industry?
It'd be a bit of both. So I read a paper recently, and interestingly, it was, even though it's widely recognised, and, you know, they're trying to get more in the face of younger people with the advertising. You know, billboards have always got a female on it or whatever with a hard hat on, sort of thing. Strangely enough, in this article I wrote, the problem was still the individual's attitude, meaning they still think that they can't do it. which is something that, you know, it's going to take a little while for everybody. And I think the only way that that's going to change is if there's more people like myself and female business owners that show people that it's doable.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're doing by doing media, by speaking, by writing your chapter in this book and getting that message out to other girls and other women who are wanting to enter the industry is so important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Heidi. I'm sure that so many people will be inspired by your chapter and how you've had the courage to dare to be different. And yeah, I'm looking forward to.
Thank you. I really appreciate this whole journey and the Osmumpreneur platform. Honestly, I never set out to do any of this, and it's been a real eye-opener, and I'm very thankful for all the times where I've had to step out of my comfort zone because I've grown a lot from this whole experience, and thank you very much.
Oh, thanks, Heidi. I feel like it's just the beginning for you too. I think you're going to be doing more speaking and inspiring people everywhere. So keep it up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. So I'd now like to go to Emma. Hi, Emma. Can you tell us a bit more about your chapter and some of the key messages that you were wanting to share?
Sure. So, you know, and I think we mentioned before that, you know, probably a lot of people can relate to that whole finding that autonomy and freedom. So I wanted to provide a framework, and in doing so, I've created 9 steps, which I call the Supercharged Method, which can be applied to any business to then get that business going, create that business that works, so you're not forced to choose between lifestyle or career. And in doing so, I've sort of got 3 key themes, which then go into 9 steps, 3 in each of the themes. And those themes are promoting your business, perfecting your offering, and then pushing ahead. So the chapter steps through nine themes around that step by step. And in terms of promoting, you know, and I've had to go through these things myself, and I see my clients go through these things as well, looking at your niche, looking at getting clients. And my business is an online business. My clients have online businesses. So my chapter focuses on that, producing, first of all, leads online, and then converting them to clients and the ways to do that. Then we go into perfecting that offering and looking at scope and pricing, regardless if you've got a service or product business, and looking at boundaries around that. And they could be personal boundaries. So boundaries around the hours you work, when you're online, when you're having calls with your clients, all of those sort of things. And once you've got those 2 really foundation things in place, it looks at pushing ahead. So one of those things I look at is being the breadwinner, looking at your business becoming the breadwinner of your family. And that's something we have done this year. When I started the business, my husband had an employed role, and in fact, his income was very important to us when I started with no clients. And over the last couple of years, it got to the point where we could, I could say to him, well, actually, you can resign and we can make this a family business. So my business has become the breadwinner. And I think that's really important for women to believe that they can, it's not a hobby. And I think that's where as a mum, we want that flexibility. So you start a business and people might say, oh, and I pick up a lot of people who say my little business, or, and almost refer to it as a hobby. And the thing is, society sort of propounds that as well by saying things like, oh, what are you going to do when the kids go back to school? It's not a hobby, it's a business. And I think instead of saying side hustle or little business, we should say business. I've started a business. And I've come across this in the legal industry at the moment. I sort of before COVID, I was branded as that mum with the lifestyle firm because I work flexibly. Since COVID, it's sort of become now, actually a lot of people are working the way I've always worked. But then it's sort of lifestyle business. Oh, but we're going to have a global business. That's a lifestyle business. So and it's, and I said in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, I was on for Lawyers Weekly. I said, well, if a man started a business, it would just be, I've started a business, not I've started a lifestyle business around my kids. Even if the man was having flexible hours to care for the kids, he wouldn't be saying, oh, I've got a lifestyle business. So I think that's that method behind that breadwinner piece. And then you look at how you can scale your services. So a lot of the Supercharged method is about taking it beyond one-to-one services, because that's capped. You've only got so many hours in the day. In my workshop earlier in the week sort of alluded to that, looking at how you can do one-to-many, whether it's you've got a product that goes to many people, or you've got a service that goes out to many people through an online course or group calls, masterminds, things like that. So that's scaling and partnerships with other people. I think they're really key to taking a successful business and just pushing it out into the world.
That's fantastic. And there's so much that you've covered in your chapter. It sounds like it's very comprehensive and all kinds of strategies in there, really practical strategies for small business owners.
Yeah, and it was really great to sit back and I've been sort of working on this Supercharged method with some clients during the year, and they've had some really great outcomes. So looking at how those themes, and I think this book is really similar in that we're all very different. We've got different businesses, but there's all these themes that keep coming up for each and every one of us. And I think these 9 steps are really common steps that come up for each and every one of us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think what you were saying before about how we see our businesses and how society sees our businesses is something that we need to challenge, because we're running businesses. We have the potential to grow incredibly big businesses, and we're contributing money to the Australian economy, and we need to be valuing that. And
who's to say if you have a business that you can't make a lot of money, or you have to work and hustle all the time? Who's to say you can't work 3 or 4 days a week and have a really successful business? And in fact, that to me says that's a great business, rather than you shouldn't have to be killing yourself working crazy hours to have to achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved in your presentation earlier this week, you really spoke about freedom, and being an entrepreneur can give you that freedom as long as you have the clarity around what freedom looks like for you.
That's right.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Emma. I know that your chapter is just going to be so valuable for so many people. Thank you. I'd now like to welcome Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hello, Peace. Isn't that amazing, all these stories and getting to know everybody? It's just so wonderful.
This book is going to be incredible. I cannot wait. It's just filled with so many inspiring stories and amazing women who've overcome so many obstacles and really created the life that they're wanting to live.
Absolutely. And you know what, one of the things that shines through for me, and it's one of the things that fuels me, is that where there's a will, there's always a way. And every single person in this book, but also, in Osmond's as well, everybody is passionate about what they do, and they find a way to make it happen against all odds quite often. And then the push through, like we all work really hard at the beginning, we all put in all the hours, but then we end up growing and doing everything, and then we end up growing into the place where we get to stay in our genius zone and delegate the rest of the things that we we appreciate and have to be done, but aren't our genius. And I love that evolution process. It just really, you know, I've done it myself, and I have a team that work with me and things like that. And to be able to stay in my genius, which is having the stories, you know, delivering them into the world. That's what gives me, that's what keeps me driven and passionate about what I do. And every day is different.
And so your chapter is a lot about that as well, isn't it? You talk about scaling up, and to be able to scale up, you have to learn how to let go and trust others to handle the day-to-day operations so that you can work in your zone of genius.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And knowing your value as well, because scaling up is an evolution of your mind. You know, where you start out is not where you know, you have to progressionally keep checking in with your mindset and evolving with it, because the mindset which you start the business with, you know, is it grows and evolves, and you need to keep checking in with that and growing and evolving with that. And, you know, I touch on a few things in my chapter. So, you know, my big thing was, like, I don't come from an entrepreneurial background. Although whenever, you know, I was same as Leanne, I was working from 15. I didn't love school. School didn't serve me well. It didn't keep my interest. So I was out in the workforce, you know, just doing jobs, earning money, and just really having fun. I love life. But I always ended up in managerial roles and managing people, you know, a lot older than me and things like that. I just always had that. And I didn't realize until I actually fell into publishing when I was, 33, that I have an entrepreneurial mindset, because nobody in my family, well, they probably do. When my dad did, he, you know, he had coal runs and things like that, but it wasn't, you know, it was me that just picked that button and has run with it and identified and to think big and to make big things happen. It takes courage. And I always remember Katie saying to me, was it at the last conference, the 2019 conference, goodness, Karen, I wrote about this in The Power of Knowing. Goodness, Karen, you were just fearless. And I answered her, well, there's no fear in knowing, because I, you know, scale and say yes to opportunities that I know are aligned. And that takes courage, because, you know, quite often you are, as you know, as Rachel was saying, you know, you're risking, it looks like a risk to others, but when you know it's getting you to where you're heading and where you are setting the intentions of going, it's actually not a risk. It's actually the best decision you'll ever make, and it'll fast track you.
That's amazing. And I love that you are such a strong believer in the power of knowing, and just really believing, setting the vision for where you're going, and then just believing that that's going to happen. And no matter what happens, I mean, challenges and obstacles come up for everyone, but then just stay focused and know that this is what you want.
And challenges, a lot of people think is a negative. I don't. I see challenges as opportunities to grow and evolve to the next step, because they come for a reason. They come to give you the skills that you need to be the person you're aspiring to be. So I'm forever checking in and resetting my intentions and my goals, and I don't have a concrete goal in place, because if I had have limited myself to a specific thing when I started out, I wouldn't be where I am today, because I was open to, I knew where I was going. I was walking that road confidently. I knew I was on the right road, but I didn't, you know, like, I never pinned an actual thing on what the success was. And I'm still, you know, because that's never ending. It's ever evolving. And I want to choose, as long as I'm enjoying and having fun in the adventure and bringing people along with me on the journey, that will always be, you know, I won't ever jump off that, because that's what business is about. It's about growing, being of service to people, and aligning with your values, not compromising yourself, you know, so much, and inspiring others to bring the best of themselves to the table. And that is giving to yourself first. I'm a big advocate for that, because there's too many good people walking around on empty, you know, and when you do service yourself first, then you're able to show up and give your best to your business and to others as well. And I come from that. When my to-do list is at its longest and I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, that's when you won't see me online that day. You'll see I will be at the beach and I'll be taking time out, because the next day I will come and I'll knock that list out of the park with the best energy possible, because I'm not going to show up for other people and bring their books into the world depleted. I'm going to show up and bring their books into the world at a high vibration that they deserve. That means taking care of me as well.